Hello, and welcome to Alternative Viewpoint. We continue with part 3 of episode 3, our conversation with Mr. Sims. In this discussion, we elaborate more on prime property management. We also discuss a residents' meeting in October. As usual, Mr. Sims proves to be very observant and offers up wise words. I am very pleased to be giving him this opportunity to speak out. I hope you enjoy listening. One of the other things I didn't tell you about was that when Stephen Wiles, who owns Prime, he was asked by Rob to draft the Section 6 notice because it was after the freeholder sends you a Section 5, the leaseholders have only 2 months to reply, which is a very short time to do that. So they need to get together. They need to have at least a minimum of over 50% of people who agree to buy the freehold, and they need to send out a reply to the landlord to say that they will buy it. Now, this was coming up to the deadline of the 2 months, and the leaseholder finally had about 13 people who agreed to buy it. And Rob, at the time, he asked Stephen Wiles to draft the Section 6 notice for them. Now, they should have gone to a solicitor to do the job, but they didn't want to pay because they had experiences in the past where when Skill Crown would offer the freehold for sale and then he would pull it because he has a right to do that. So I think there was a time, or maybe more than once, when they paid for a solicitor, and it was but the freehold pulled that, so they lost that money. And this time Rob couldn't get enough people to pay, essentially, which was about £300 if you pay a solicitor to do that. But he didn't want to pay it, so he asked Stephen Wiles to do it, and Stephen couldn't really do it, but he tried. He put together a kind of a Section 6 notice, and he sent it to the Skill Crown solicitor, and Skill Crown looked at it, and they said no. And they just rejected outright because it was it was not legally correctly done. Now, I looked at that piece of paper later, and it was really bad. It was just a pile of scribble, like the writing of a 5-year-old. And at the time, I was really pissed off with Prime, and I told him that what you did cost us the freehold. What do you think about Prime after they've done that?
Well, inefficient. Is it inefficient?
Yeah, he shouldn't have done it if he didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, no.
But again, it shows how Prime doesn't really know much about block management either.
I see.
Like, he couldn't even do that. I mean, it was so awful, that piece of paper. It was so awful. All he had to do was to put people's name and address on the piece of paper. Even that would have been sufficient.
Yeah.
But it was just a pile of scribble. The signatures didn't match. The names and address didn't match. I mean, some of the names weren't even full names. It was like first name, no surname. So it was absolutely ridiculous.
Incomplete.
Yeah. It was just a piece of rubbish.
Yeah.
And that's why after that, Skill Crown rejected it, and the freehold got sold to Coney, and then most people thought the freehold was lost. And then I had to step in to go out and try and salvage that. So your opinion of Prime is that, do you think that they still should be managing this building?
Not on evidence that is to hand.
And what do you think of the time when, I haven't told you this, but there was a time when I had a meeting with the directors, James, Mamas. Shalene is not a director, by the way, but she just hangs on. Like,
I see.
she's a hanger on. So she attended the meeting as well, and in the meeting I was shouting at Mamas and told him, you need to sack Prime. You need to sack Prime because we can't have this company. And he was resolutely refusing to do that. Why do you think he can't sack Prime?
It doesn't seem to me to make sense here. If someone is proving to be inadequate, you should be able, as a director, to take the necessary steps, and that the action deserves.
Yeah. Has actually violated the professional code of conduct in in what they have done so far. Not only have they proven that they don't know how to manage a block of flats, and you can see that they don't know how to manage there's enough evidence to show that they don't know how to manage a block of flats, because they couldn't even do a simple thing like send out an email to the leaseholders, and they have come up with no good ideas whatsoever in terms of managing this building. They didn't even bother to clean the windows for years.
No. I've, a funny thing that one of my grandsons, he does window cleaning as a profession, yeah.
Yeah.
And when it's convenient, on a visit, he would clean my windows, which is not very often anyway. But that used to be a regulation when Atkins was in charge.
Yeah. And of course, they haven't actually done any 5-year maintenance that they were supposed to do.
No.
That's actually in the lease.
Yeah.
That's actually in the lease that there's supposed to be 5-year
Yes.
more intense restoration work on the building, which
Yeah.
they have failed to do as well.
True.
So they have failed to comply with the lease. So why are we still paying them? And they've shown that they haven't got any knowledge about how to manage a block of flats successfully. And I find that it's astonishing that the people in this building still think that we should be paying this company. It's money down the drain. If it was me, I would sack Prime and I would put that money into the managing into the restoration of restoring the garden. That's an investment. You get your money back when you do that. You pay money to this company, you're not going to get a penny of it back.
No.
Yeah. So after the meeting, Shalene, who's the new person in the building, she sent this text message in the WhatsApp group. Dear directors, most meetings I have attended for Cavendish Court have been very unprofessional, with name callings and abuse. For a new tenant coming in, it is very bad. People's voices and views are not heard unless you can shout abuses at people. Yesterday was no different, and no one volunteering or working should be treated in this way. I can clearly see why people do not wish to join the board or get involved in Cavendish projects. The loss involved with this building is due to the lack of respect to the stakeholders, not always visible to the eye. I hope change is coming. We don't have to abuse people to be heard. Mamas, I have sorry for you. You had to sit through the name calling yesterday. I was afraid to even open my mouth, as I don't want to be abused for my 1/24th opinion. This is where the problem is. I have written this in good faith, and I hope the next meeting will be productive. If not, I will no longer be on the path of personal vendettas. Health over wealth. Mamas and James, good luck, as you will need it. Have a good weekend, everyone. Thanks, Shalene. Mamas later sent this message to all the leaseholder as a way to publicly humiliate me. What's your opinion of that?
Well, just offhand, my opinion, basically, it would seem to be that act seems irresponsible. Yeah, sending emails or whatever mails seem to be a personal, thing.
Oh yeah, he was doing that to personally to try and publicly humiliate me. While because I wanted Prime to be sacked. Prime need to be sacked because they have mistreated the people in this building very throughout all these years. They've colluded with the directors to withhold meetings. They have professionally violated their own professional code of conduct.
So, what was the object of the exercise? Sending all these connecting mails or whatever in aid of.
Well, in aid of to humiliate me and to show that I'm the person who's causing all the trouble in the building. When in actual fact, I'm the one who's actually been trying to stop Cavendish Court from turning into a pile of rubble. They have every time they have tried to do something, they have actually failed. They failed to buy the freehold. Like for years, they neglected this building and left it to rot. Because they didn't know how to manage it. And I've been fighting, and rather than actually telling Prime to do the work, they didn't tell Prime to do anything. And I'm the one who's been, myself and a few others like Samuel and Rob, the others have been, and Simon as well, I have been actively trying to get Prime to do the work, to do the repairs, to do everything. And Prime has ignored that on the command of the directors to say ignore them. They just ignore them. And also they have colluded with the directors to withhold meetings because they were afraid that if the directors, George and Nicole, were voted out and were no longer directors in the building, the new directors would come and sack Prime. So they were doing that in order to keep hold of their money, essentially. And even now, they still haven't come up with any good ideas about how to manage this building. And because the directors don't know what they're doing, they're just having meetings to talk in circles. No positive idea. That's how. This is what happens. It's like, there's a saying. It says, "In the land of fools, the monkey is king." Have you heard of that?
I'm afraid not. I'm updated.
Well, it's a version of "In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king." What do you think that means?
Well, it's the best on the premises.
Well, yeah. Well, it means that if everybody else is stupid, the most stupid person
That's
is
right.
the cleverest, right? And what do you think? Well, you mentioned earlier about what the people in this building who sort of take sides. What do you think of those kind of people?
Well, I made a quote earlier about water finding its level eventually, yeah? And that is that it doesn't matter. Water is not controllable.
Yeah. So you're saying that these people are like water.
Correct.
Yeah.
Will take the shape of any vessel it's poured into.
Okay. So basically, water just flow anywhere where it can find it, where it can find the largest pool of water to join up with. So if water flows into sewage, that's water. Water can flow into sewage too, because if the sewage was large enough, water will flow into sewage.
Correct.
Right. So these people are water, essentially.
Well, I'm not going to commit myself to that.
Well, we've seen an instance of sewage in this building.
Yeah.
Sewage outbreaks in this building.
I've made my contribution, and if that is what it leads to, let it be.
Okay, that's an interesting comment. I've never heard of anybody describing it as water when people. But it's interesting. It's the first time. How much do you think the cost to restore this building is?
That I'm afraid that is out of my league,
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's all of that is, we're going to have to pay for that. Who do you think should be responsible for that, for the damage that's been done in Cavendish Court?
It seemed that the agent who's in charge of the building.
Well, Simon thinks it's Prime and the directors who should pay for that.
Yeah. Well, Prime is the agent that's in charge.
Yeah.
To my knowledge.
Do you think the directors should also pay for the damage in this building?
Well, that's a delicate thing because being a director and involuntary, non payment, or whatever, or for the responsibility lies. I don't know. Because if they're not in receipt of financial gain, And I thought I've been being penalized, yeah.
Well, why shouldn't they be penalized? Because they put themselves in this position.
Oh, volunteer, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
forced them to do the job.
Correct.
They volunteered to do the job.
Uh-huh. But then again, accepting responsibility, is there a code of conduct
Yeah.
that is attached
So
to that?
according to according to the company's house,
Hmm.
directors have a responsibility over their company, over the company.
Mm-mm,
So
mm-mm,
directors, and also in the, I think the association, the articles of association, it lists the director's responsibility.
mm.
So if directors are not doing the job,
Mhm.
they are directly responsible financially and criminally responsible.
Yeah.
So if somebody dies in this building
Mhm.
because of neglect, or that is
Mhm.
as a result of neglect, the
Yes.
directors would be going to prison for
Yeah.
that.
Understood. Yeah. Yeah. The legal side of that, I'm not aware of. I know that directors have responsibilities.
Yeah.
How far that go, yeah, legally and otherwise, yeah, I'm not qualified to,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, again, it comes down to ignorance of their role, and they're not actually looking. They're not focus. They haven't actually they haven't actually studied or learned what their responsibilities are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you said, they just wanted to be directors to gain power
Mm-hmm.
in the building, and forcing residents. What do you think of what they were discussing in the meeting on October the 29th about imposing fines in the car park for use of the car park?
Well, regarding that, I know that in past meetings, it's been mentioned that sharing a guard space, if it's convenient, you know, can this be discussed and whatever arrangements made. But not driving again. I'm occupancy of a gorgeous space.
Mm,
Now, I know that there are residents who actually have more than one vehicle.
mm,
Yeah? That, from my point of view, does not qualify them to have more than one space. Yeah. Yeah. But if someone wants to occupy a vacant space, that could easily be done through consultation.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With, of course, permission, or
Mm,
whatever. But to permanently park a vehicle in someone else's space, to me, is an infringement.
right. Is an
Yeah.
infringement. Yeah, there seems to be more of sharing the space in the car park
Oh,
before. Yeah.
also, but you see, I myself have had the problem of having a stern tradesman, yeah,
Yeah.
being having been refused area to park because my area has been taken. See, and we know you never know when you might need your car space, so it should not be permanently occupied without your permission.
Right. Mm. So Mammoth was also mentioned a fee of about £3,200 of a time when we took when some of the leaseholders took Prime to court, to and in there we were trying to get them to do the job, and we lost the case. So Mama seems to think that the people who took Prime to court should pay for that fee. Do you agree with that? So that his idea is that we should those who took it that Prime to court should pay for that. So that comes back down to the question of whether who is responsible for paying for all the damages in this building. Should the leaseholder have to pay for that?
Not that it's a criminal. If it's criminal damage, then
Well, some of it is criminal neglect. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But to me, it comes back to management.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to who is responsible. Who is responsible for paying for all the repairs in this building?
The managing agent.
Managing agent and the directors, in my opinion.
Because if they're managing agent and directors, automatically are like a family.
They have responsibility. I don't know that you could say that they're a family.
No. What me responsible from a responsibility point of view. A family is like a tree with branches.
Right.
Yeah. That's my point of view, you know? And there's joint responsibility.
Yeah. So they have responsibility.
Yeah.
Legally, there is a possibility that the leaseholders can take the directors to court and make them pay for all the repairs of the building. I don't think that the leaseholders should have to pay because we haven't done anything.
No.
We have lived under their rule, the directors' ruling over this building.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the directors who hasn't done their job. It's not the leaseholder who hasn't done their job. The leaseholder have put them in a position. They volunteer to do the job. If they can't do the job, they shouldn't volunteer. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, agreed.
Right. So for all these, who should pay for the damages in the window when you saw that Rockton did that? Rockton did the photographs of the windows when Rockton repaired that. That was a company that was the directors assigned. Yeah.
That seemed to be their responsibility.
Yeah. Because they didn't do the background check on the company. And they just said that they did, and they weren't even present. Prime wasn't even present when the work was going on to check that the company was doing their work properly. And we paid them to do that. I mean, they charged like a fee to manage of 10 to 20% to manage any big projects that require Section 20 notice. They charge us an extra fee to do that, and so that means that we pay them to manage the project.
Yeah.
So they should have been here to check when the windows were being installed. Yeah. They weren't there. And it's the same when they changed the gate in the building. Like for the whole weekend, all the gates in the building were left ajar. I don't know why, when it was only just the garage gate. But I came down and I found all the gates being left open, and the garage gate was just wide open. Like they didn't even shut it off at the end of the day. What do you think of Prime's communication?
Well, I don't get a lot of it. So
they don't send you letters, do they? They should send you letters because we pay for postage.
Yeah. I know that if you're in default of certain fees or whatever, you're charged for communication. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think of Prime's habit of penalizing people if they don't pay, or charging people to do? I know that James was asked Prime about when he wanted to replace the window in his flat, and he approached Prime, and Prime wanted him to pay £60, even though it had nothing to do with them. He should
What for?
just to, I'm not sure, but he was quoted £60, I think, just to get a letter of permission or something. I'm not sure what it was exactly, but Prime's like for everything that they do, they quote, they say you had to pay for it.
Is that for communication or what?
I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, maybe for communication. The thing is that they want to be paid, but they don't do a very good job of it. Like, I know that the Section 20 notice that was sent out, they weren't correctly drafted by Prime, and I did go back to them and complained about that at the time, and like, but the problem is the directors were so ignorant, they didn't pick that up. So you know, it's the thing is like I said, is in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. If you don't know what you're doing, you just go along with whatever. So why do you think like is the Mammoth thinks Prime is so professional? It's like, I don't understand that.
Neither do I.
Yeah. Do you think Prime is professional?
They haven't proved anything to me, that they are, because as photographs show, there is a lot to be desired about the state that the Cavendish Court is in now.
It's not just a photograph, but your personal experience of dealing with this kind of
Oh, not a very good one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So the leaseholder in this building should all want Prime to be sacked, and they should be going to the directors and saying, sack this company. But I guess if the problem is that in the past they have sacked companies and they brought in new companies only to find that the new company is worse. It's simply because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to hold this company accountable. Right? Again, it's like it's just ignorance on top of ignorance on top of ignorance, right? It's when you don't know, they don't know how to do it. It's just so. I guess I think one of the reason why Mammoth doesn't want to sack Prime is that he doesn't think that he could find a company that's better, because he doesn't know how to find a company that's better. It's like when he doesn't know how to read a contract. He doesn't know how to sign a contract. And this goes not just Mammoth, but Kaleem, Salim, Brett, and all those ones before. They didn't know how to sign a contract.
I see.
With and set down. They didn't. I'm quite sure that they didn't even read Prime's contract properly to see how it's to set down properly from what you expect the managing agent to do in this building. So yeah, that's a problem. Like,
there's something just offhand. This is separate. You remember some while ago I showed you a disconnected gutter.
Yeah.
And it only highlights when the rain falls, especially heavily. Now, when Atkins was here, there was similar problems like that at the back of my flat, and I went down to Sangli Road and I reported it, and it was checked and seen to. See what happens in this is instance now. I don't know, how to connect or who to connect to. I think that's problems of waiting so long.
Yeah.
For
So
my own.
yeah. So your experience with Cavendish is that they were more proactive.
Well, if it took them so long, to cut down the subplants in front of my meter, reporting some observation. I don't think I'll bother. No.
Yeah, you're not the first person who said David Atkin was better.
I used to get response.
Yeah, you used to get response when you speak to David Atkin.
Yeah.
My own experience with David Atkin was more positive as well. Like I told you before, Brian Cudby, who was the property manager at the time, when there was commotion among the residents, and I got to know Brian Cudby very well, and I'm still in touch with him. And he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot. And he said the problem with Cavendish Court is the leaseholders. And in my opinion, he was very correct. He was right. He was spot on. In fact, that the problem with Cavendish Court is the leaseholder. It's the lack of intelligence, the lack of maturity, the lack of decency, the lack of good manners, the lack of integrity, the lack of honesty. I mean, they literally have nothing going. And they blame everybody else when something. They hated David Atkin. They blamed David Atkin, and then, but it was never David Atkin's fault. Brian Cudby told me he tried to organize a residents meeting, but nobody responded to him. Nobody responded to him when he tried to set up a residents meeting. They later set up a residents meeting to go up against David Atkin and blame them for not looking after the building. But then and they thought having right to manage means that they would look after the building better. Has it? No. And instead of actually accepting responsibility, they're blaming somebody else. They're blaming me. When I'm the one who has done all the work in this building, anything that has been done correctly has always been done by me. Like I had to go, they couldn't, they lost the freehold. I had to go out and buy that. And then Brett and Nicole, Jenny and George try to commit financial fraud, and I had to stop them from doing that. And then they tried to manage the building. They nearly wrecked the building. And Mammoth and Shalane and James, wrecked the bloody garden. It's like, I mean, every time they try to do something, they can't do it right. And even now, it's like they still haven't got anything good that's come out of it. It's just like I just think, and also with the Louvre in the garden, Prime never managed it. I had to spend my own money to fix that problem in the end. Like if they were a proper professional company, they would have fixed that the very first week they took over management, right?
Yeah.
That Louvre there was so rusty that the metal was falling off. And I said to them, I said to them that they needed to be changed. Otherwise they could harm a child. If a child stuck his hand in there, it could end up having a slit their wrist or having a very ghastly rift, because those metal hinges were very sharp, were coming sharp because it was rusty and the pieces were falling off. So there was like sharp metal on that. And what do I do? Do I wait until some child dies and then Prime gets the blame? But in order for Prime to get the blame, some child has to die or somebody has to be hurt, right? So I took the decision up on myself to change it. And Prime, instead of accepting that they weren't very good, they turned around and said that, oh, it's because you weren't paying the service charge. It's like, no, that thing did not cost that much money. It has nothing to do with people in this building not paying the service charge. People in this building are not paying the service charge because they're not getting the service. They're treated very badly by this company. So that's the reason. In the October meeting, I was quite disgusted reading the things that they were coming out with, talking about sending threatening letters. That could lead to really dire consequences. If you irritate people, if you anger them, they're going to take action against you. And that kind of language is turning this building into a war zone, right? It's
sad.
Not,
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has been
dangerous.
A war zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not positive language. And this is what I say. If you don't know what you're doing, don't volunteer to be a director. Don't volunteer to do a job if you don't know what you're doing. You have to be honest yourself. You have to know the fact that they don't think about the responsibility and the consequences. They think about is, I'm a director, I'm the big chief, I'm the one who's ruling over all these people. That's what they think about. I mean, one of these days, those idiots are really going to pay for it. Have you heard of that? Have you remember the time when that man who, Stockton Rush, who took those people into the submarine, and I've discussed this with my friend before, but they took the people in the submarine to go down to Titanic.
Yes.
And they all died in that submarine. That is what Mamas is like. Mamas and Brett and Kaleem, and their kind of mentality. That is the exact mentality. He was told not to do that, and he was told by his top engineer, right? And that person left the job, and he was threatened with legal action if he spoke out against against Stockton Rush. So. And the consequences of that is that people die. These people are very, very immature in their thinking. He wanted to be a pioneer. He wanted to be the first man to create a tourism to take people down to the Titanic. But he didn't think, but the things he was doing, he wasn't doing things properly. He completely flouted the law, and that's why they died. So Brett and Mamas and Kaleem are sitting there and talking, criticizing me. They should be they're the ones who's going to end up costing the people in this building their lives. So the rest of the leaseholder, well, I personally don't really care if these people die, to be perfectly honest. It's their fault, They don't listen, so if anything happens, it's their fault. But I care about my money, and my tenant, and you, people like us, shouldn't have to be dragged into this situation, right? Anybody who agrees with Mamas and Kaleem and Salim and Brett, anybody who agree, and Nicole and all these people. Whatever happens to them, they deserve it. It's their own fault, right? But leave the rest of us out of it. That's my position. Leave us out of it. Leave my money out of it. Like, what do you say?
Well, if people will follow who they want to follow, they got to, in time, face the consequences. And to me, each one is entitled, to assess and behave in a way that's compatible, with, if not all, but as much people as is available or whatever, you see. And if people will be led blindly, not due to manipulation, but voluntarily, well, that's their cup of tea.
Yeah, that's their problem, and I don't really care what they do with their money or with themselves. But they need to understand, people. There are those of us who don't agree with that. It's fine for me if they like Prime and they want to pay Prime, then just pay Prime. But my money is not going to Prime. And I should not be forced to do that. It's immoral. It's against my principle. And your money should not be going. Prime should be refunding all the money that they take from you, essentially. But it's all about their own self-interest. I don't even understand why people like Shalane and James keep agreeing with him. They should be distancing themselves from him because he clearly is not acting in the interests of the the leaseholders.
I'm listening before I comment.
Yeah, no, you continue.
You've named a few lessees who are quite qualified, in their own line of business. But often you find that common sense bypasses all that. See, education it does a lot, but sometimes a little common sense could go further.
In the meeting in October, they were trying to solve all the problems with the garage and with the bins. I think you've read that one, right?
Yeah.
With the bins and all of that. This has been going on for years and years and years, and they've never managed to solve the problem. And this is also down to Prime's lack of ability. Prime's total incompetence in managing this building. That we need to have a managing agent who's going to come in and manage this building, rather than a managing agent like Prime who comes in and they leave it to the directors, because the directors don't know what they're doing, so they shouldn't be making any decisions in this building. Essentially, so we need to go back to the days of David Atkin when they were managing this building. If a leaseholder has a problem, they go to David Atkin. They shouldn't be told to go to directors.
Can I ask a question? In the reign of David Atkins, did they have the present behavior where you had voluntary directors?
No. David Atkin was managing this building.
I see.
Because the freeholder, they were working for the freeholder.
And
the freehold, and that's how it should be. The way it is right now is that Prime just passes all the work to directors when they shouldn't be doing that. They're hired to manage this building, so they should take on the responsibility of managing this building. And these directors need to stand back and stand away and stop interfering. So we need a managing agent that can manage this building, know how to do that.
So offhand, do you think the introduction of directors is causing more problems than doing good?
Absolutely, because these people are power crazy.
I see.
They don't have the best interests. They have their own interests. They're acting in their own interests. They're not acting in the interest of the leaseholders. And they've waged war with the leaseholder for the past 10 years or so. Ever since Right to Manage, they've done. They haven't done any management. They haven't done work properly at all.
It would seem that unless you have someone or some group of people with responsibility, of being in charge, you will only get complications. See?
Yeah, well, the first thing that they all need to do, all the leaseholders need to do, is the first thing they need to do is accept the fact that they don't know what they're doing. And they need to shut up. Okay, they need to learn to listen.
Yes.
And they need to accept the fact that everything that they do, they have to learn how to do it. Okay, this is not, I'm going to be a director and I will take it over and I will do this. No, you have to learn. I was going to, if you want to be a director, I'll send you on a course first of all. You have to learn. And all it is, and like I told you, is people just volunteering and stepping up. They don't learn how to do anything. So what was the other points in the meeting you wanted to discuss?
Well, basically, I was noting how many people seem to have the knives out, after you. I know you.
They have knives out for me? Oh, yeah, they all have knives.
Yeah. It's been said that you tend to be hasty. Oh, right. No one's perfect, you see. But there seems to be some kind of joint, effort in stifling your attitudes, to expose people and get people to do right things.
Yeah, they don't want to do the right thing. It's a combination of laziness, apathy, ignorance. It's all. I mean, we'll go over this theme of in this building over and over again. We keep going over this, and it's down to. I think Cavendish Court there will be some kind of disaster before Cavendish Court. If they keep going like this, they're going to walk straight into another Grenfell Tower.
If it's the proper one, faults will surface,
What is that?
If it's not properly run, faults will surface.
Exactly. And yet they are walking straight into another disaster. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Sad.
This kind of attitude always have consequences. Always have consequences. And then there was another point I wanted to make was with how this kind of behavior towards you as well, that you could have been a director all these years.
Yes, but funny thing, on one occasion when I was visiting a meeting in Fitzgerald's restaurant.
Yeah, in the restaurant.
There was some voting of a sort. Some people volunteered, for directorship. It never got to me to join,
Yeah.
I just tried to observe, listen, and whatever. So it was never my inclination, to push myself forward, So I'll have to accept the end result.
But now that you've seen how things are done, I think maybe back then you thought there was a lot more responsibility or work or something. But now you've seen how things are done. Don't you think that you could have done a better job yourself?
It's possible. More than likely it's possible, because I've been proved to be capable of supervision. You see, not in my last job, but in my lifestyle. See?
Well, you've seen the kind of people who are directors. I mean, don't you think you're so much better than that? Really? I think you're so much better than that.
Well, I don't think I wouldn't volunteer myself to do worse.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you've seen the kind of directors we have in this building. You see the low quality of behavior and low quality of intellect, like the low level of intellect. So you can see that there's no qualification or experience required to be a director, really.
Well, the directors that I've seen, I don't have that closeness to anybody as such, but I don't think that basically know what it's all about,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, to be a director is accepting responsibility of some sort. And if there's no knowledge of what's expected, you're wasting time.
Yeah, well, it starts with common sense, and it starts with self-awareness. And you say, I will be a director. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do my best to. So it starts with that, and it starts with saying that if you don't know what you're doing, you need to learn to listen to advice. That's it.
Yeah, of course. I tell you what, this is just going back. I remember there's an occasion, and I was put on a job without no knowledge of what to do. And there's a colleague who used to do their job pretty well. With his booklet that attached, to most of the type of jobs. Yeah. And I used to regard it as the Bible,
Yeah.
That is your guide. That's what you follow. And before I left that particular job, I was number one in the job.
Wow, yeah.
Because any problems people had, they would be referred to me.
Yeah. So here's another example: is prime property management. Now, you don't know the story, but the Stephen Wiles, the person who founded Prime Property Management, he was a leaseholder as well, and he basically had bad experiences with his flat, with the management, and he decided he would start his own business and become a property manager, and become a managing agent. And he was going to change the industry. He wanted to change the industry for the better. He thought he would do a better job, but he, like Mamas and the others, he ended up not doing a better job at all, because I look at how he's doing things, and it's clear to me that there's a lot of shortcomings in Prime. So it tells me that he never learned how to be a managing agent, and he does not apply any code of practice, good practice. Like, he does not follow the RICS or ARMA code of management, practice. That is not stated on his contract. So I don't know what code of professional code of conduct he's following by, or the standards or rules that he's following. But it shows you that in this industry, you can just set up your own business and call yourself a property managing agent, and you can get clients. I mean, people don't really ask him for his. They don't ask for your certification. There's no certification or anything to do that. And he lacks ideas. The Prime Property Management lacks a lot of ideas, and you can tell when by just looking the way they do things and the emails that they sent out. It's just seriously lacking. And looking at their documentation, it lacks professionalism, and it lacks knowledge. So, Prime Property, whether or not he's doing well or something, I don't know. But I would say that if he has any good clients, it's probably down to the fact that his clients were competent, right? His clients are competent, and they know how to. They are hiring Prime, but they're doing their own work. But when you have clients who are incompetent, and they're burdened with the responsibility when they don't know how to do it, like we have in this building, then it doesn't work. Then it shows how seriously lacking Prime is. It shows that Prime's lack of professionalism.